Chosen one, there's something you've carried your entire life that was never yours to begin with. A whisper, a sentence, a command, a presence. They called it your conscience. They disguised it as your thoughts. But it wasn't you. It never was. From the earliest moments, before you even knew what identity meant, they wrapped their voices around your mind, the way you were taught to walk, to speak, to think, to feel. None of it was born from your true self. They programmed you through repetition, through shame, through reward and punishment systems that conditioned your every move. Not because they were evil. Most of them didn't even realize what they were doing. But the world you were born into is a system built on borrowed voices. And you, chosen one, were never meant to borrow. You were meant to originate. That hesitation you feel before you speak your truth. That urge to stay silent when your heart is screaming. That doubt that crawls in when you're about to take a step toward your destiny. That is not you. That is the installed voice. That is the parasite disguised as protection. And for years, maybe decades, it has made itself at home in your sacred space. But now, something is waking up. Something ancient. Something electric. And you're beginning to remember, you were never meant to obey that voice. You were meant to silence it. Chosen one, as you listen to these words, a shift begins. A veil is lifting. It's time to remember who you are, not based on what they told you, but based on what you know. Deep inside, underneath the fear, beyond the confusion. Your soul carries a frequency older than the system, and that frequency is starting to break through. The moment you chose to open this message, something activated in you. And here's the beautiful part. When you declare your truth, when you dare to dream with fire in your soul, the universe listens. Your wish is not just a request. It's a command sent to the stars, and they respond. If you're here, make sure to watch until the end and comment your warmest wish along with 77. Because your voice matters. And the moment you release that energy, the universe begins to move in your favor. Now like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let's dive deeper. But let's get deeper. Let's look this voice in the face. It doesn't sound like a monster, does it? It sounds like reason. It sounds like a parent, a teacher, a friend. A voice that says, don't be too much. Stay quiet. They won't understand you. You're not ready. You're not worthy. Over and over. Until it begins to sound like your own inner dialogue. Until it becomes your autopilot. You wake up and it's already speaking. You stand in front of a mirror and it's already criticizing. You open your heart to someone and it tells you you're weak. But pause, chosen one. Ask yourself, where did it come from? Who planted it? And why? They installed it because your light scared them. They didn't know how to handle someone who saw the world differently, who felt deeper, who heard things in silence, who dreamed bigger than the limits they accepted. So instead of letting you grow wild and true, they trimmed you down to fit their pot. They couldn't handle your magic, so they called it madness. They couldn't understand your vision, so they called it rebellion. But even then, you knew. Even in your silence, your real voice never died. You've had moments, fleeting ones, moments when you laughed too hard, danced too freely, spoke too truthfully, and you felt alive. That wasn't rebellion. That was you. That was your original voice breaking through the static. But what happened right after? Guilt. Shame. The installed voice stepped in like a security system, warning you that your truth is dangerous. But dangerous to what? Dangerous to the illusion. Dangerous to the lie. dangerous to the story they told you about who you are and what's possible. They needed you small because they were afraid of your expansion. They needed you silent because your words carry revolution. They needed you obedient because your soul carries divine authority. But no more. You've been chosen for this moment, not because you are better than others, but because you remember. You remember what it means to live from the inside out. You remember what it means to question the voice, to unplug from the script, to write your own. And now, a great unlearning begins. It's not easy, because that voice has built entire structures in your mind. It has convinced you that failure is final, that mistakes mean shame, that being different is dangerous. But here's the truth. Every time you ignore that voice, a little more of you returns. Every time you choose authenticity over approval, you reclaim your power. Every time you trust your intuition, you cut another wire from the system they built. And there will be resistance, not just from outside, but from within. Because that voice has been there so long, it knows how to mimic you. It knows how to make you second guess. It knows how to dress up as logic and caution. But logic that shrinks you is not logic. It's fear in disguise. And you were never meant to serve fear. You were meant to serve truth. And truth has its own voice. It whispers like a breeze and roars like thunder. It speaks in goosebumps and tears. It lives in your breath and your belly and your bones. It's the part of you that doesn't just hope. It knows. It knows that you were born for something holy. It knows that your timing isn't an accident, that your existence is a sign, and that every whisper of not enough was a lie designed to keep you asleep. But now, you're waking up. This is what awakening really means. Not just love and light, but recognizing the lie and choosing to no longer let it live in you. Choosing to evict the voice that was never yours. And it takes courage, chosen one. Because the moment you silence that voice, the world gets louder. They'll try to reinstall it. Through media, through fear, through shame. But every time they try, you'll be stronger. You'll remember. That's not me. You'll begin to hear your real voice. The one that speaks when you're still. The one that rises in your dreams. The one that pushes you forward when everything says stop. That is the divine frequency. That is the sound of your soul reclaiming the stage. And when you follow it, miracles happen. Not instantly, not always smoothly, but undeniably. Because the universe doesn't respond to the voice they gave you. It responds to the voice you remember. And the more you use it, the louder it becomes. Until one day, you no longer hear the old voice. Just silence and peace and your truth roaring like a storm. You will write again. You will love again. You will rise again. Because the voice that told you otherwise was never yours to begin with. It's wild, isn't it? How that voice has lived inside your head for so long that you thought it was you. But the deeper you look, the more you realize it's not your voice that's been guiding your life. It's an echo, a mimic, a program. They installed it early, before you had the words to resist, before you could define yourself. They defined you. And not in truth, in fear, in limitations, in inherited insecurity. Every time someone said, "That's not realistic," or "Don't get your hopes up," or "That's not how the world works," they weren't just giving advice. They were uploading a file. And that file became a loop in your mind. A loop you've mistaken for your own reasoning. You didn't just grow up. You were conditioned, trained, formatted. And that conditioning had one mission: to make you forget who you are. Because if you remembered, truly remembered, you'd become unstoppable. So they made you forget, with subtle weapons, sarcasm, judgment, pressure to conform. They praised you when you fit in. They ignored you when you stood out. They made fear feel like wisdom, and courage feel like recklessness. And you, so pure, so open, so trusting, believed them. Of course you did. You were just trying to belong. But chosen one, belonging to them, always meant betraying yourself. You just didn't know it yet. Until now. Now the veil is lifting. You're starting to hear the difference between the installed voice and your authentic voice. The fake one shouts, it warns, it restricts, it plays worst-case scenarios on loop. But your true voice, it whispers, calm and steady. It doesn't need to convince, it simply knows. And here's the terrifying beauty. Once you hear your real voice again, the old one becomes unbearable. You'll find yourself halfway through a thought and realize, this isn't me. You'll speak a sentence, then pause and feel a sting. Because that wasn't your truth, it was a script. You'll be in the middle of making a decision and feel torn, not because you don't know what to do, but because the installed voice is arguing with your soul. And in that tension, your power is born. It's in the space between the lie and the truth. That's where transformation happens. Because you don't have to obey that old voice anymore. You can choose, you can pause, you can question everything. Who told me I'm not good enough? Who said I need permission? Who decided what success looks like for me? Who said my emotions are too much? Who told me to play small? Ask these questions. Ask them out loud. Ask them often. Because every time you ask, you shake the foundations of the illusion. And eventually, those foundations will crack. And when they do, your freedom floods in, like light through broken walls. You'll start reclaiming the parts of you they shamed, the sensitivity, the creativity, the rage, the hunger, the joy, the dreams. You'll see them not as flaws, but as truth signals, proof that you are real and alive and powerful. And yes, they'll call you different. They'll say you've changed, but that's only because you stopped playing a role in their play. You stopped being who they needed you to be, and you started becoming who you were born to be. And that scares them, not because you're wrong, but because you're free, and freedom is contagious. Chosen one, every time you choose your voice over theirs, you give permission to someone else to do the same. You become a living invitation, a walking awakening. That's why your healing is not selfish, it's revolutionary. So don't be surprised if the resistance gets louder as you rise. That voice, the one they installed, it's clever. It will tell you you're being selfish. It will remind you of every failure. It will try to seduce you back into numbness. It will say, you're not ready. It's too late. No one cares, but don't fall for it. The louder it gets, the closer you are to breaking through. See, the installed voice doesn't fight you when you're asleep. It only panics when you start waking up. And make no mistake, you're waking up. This journey you're on is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you've always been beneath the noise. That child who knew they were magical. That teen who dreamed beyond logic. That version of you that still dares to believe in impossible things. They are real. They've been buried under programming, but not destroyed. And now, they rise. You're not too broken. You're not too late. You're not behind. You're just in recovery. You're detoxing from years of misinformation. And healing is not a straight line. It's a spiral. You'll hear that voice again and again. But each time, you'll recognize it sooner. Each time, it'll feel less powerful. And one day, you'll hear it and laugh. Not because it's funny, but because it's small. You'll realize the voice that once ruled you is now barely a whisper. And in its place, your real voice, the one that says, you are enough. You are ready. Your truth matters. You were born for this. Let that voice lead, because that's the voice that moves mountains, that heals timelines, that writes new stories, that calls miracles in, that shifts the course of history. And it's been waiting for you to stop listening to ghosts and start listening to God within you. Waiting for you to remember that you are not a puppet. You are the puppeteer. That you are not a program. You are the programmer. That you are not broken. You are breaking free. So when the old voice whispers again, and it will, don't fight it. Just say, I see you. I hear you. But you're not me. And keep going. The world needs your true voice now more than ever. There is a moment, chosen one, when silence becomes unbearable. Not because it's empty, but because you start to hear what's really inside it. And when you finally sit in that silence, without distraction, without masks, without the buzz of everyone else's opinions, you begin to hear it. The foreign voice, the imposter, the echo. Not your voice, theirs. The fragments of every doubt ever thrown at you. The fragments of every you can't, you shouldn't, you mustn't, that ever sank into your subconscious. It speaks in your tone. It even uses your vocabulary. But if you sit long enough, if you listen close enough, you realize it doesn't speak with your truth. It speaks with the static of old programming. It speaks like someone who knows the shape of your soul, but not the fire inside it. It mimics your cadence, but it does not carry your heartbeat. That's how deep the lie goes. And if you're not careful, you live your whole life as an actor in a script written by ghosts. But not you, not anymore. Because your awareness, your divine, unshakable awareness, is the great exorcist. Every time you shine the light of truth on that implanted voice, it withers, it shrinks, it loses grip. Awareness is the key. Not fighting, not running, but seeing, naming, exposing. Because that which is seen cannot control you. That which is named cannot possess you. They made you forget this power. They told you obedience was noble, that silence was maturity, that fitting in was success. But what they were really saying was, don't disturb the system. Don't awaken others. Don't remind people of their fire. Because you, chosen one, are a mirror, a spark, a divine reminder that there is more depth, more wonder, more truth than they're willing to face. And when someone like you wakes up, it shakes the whole web. You see, the implanted voice never replaces the real you. It just layers over it, like paint over gold, like noise over melody, like dust on a masterpiece. And what you're doing now, this awakening, it's not inventing something new. It's brushing off the dust. It's scraping off the paint. It's peeling back the layers and remembering, I was always here. You've always known. You've always felt it, even if you couldn't explain it. That tension in your chest when you go along with something that doesn't align. That was your soul fighting back. That ache in your gut when you bite your tongue. That was your truth screaming to be heard. The deep exhaustion after being around people who drain your spirit. That was your energy rejecting the lie. The implanted voice will say, it's all in your head, but your body knows better. Your body remembers. Your cells remember. They remember the original code, the blueprint of your truest self. That's why you can't settle, no matter how hard you try. That's why the fake smile, the scripted life, the rehearsed obedience, it all feels like slow death. You were born to feel alive, not just exist. But to live in truth means confronting the lie, and not just in the world, within yourself. You'll need to ask the hard questions, trace the voices back to their source. Who first told me I needed to earn love? Who made me believe I had to suffer to deserve rest? Who said joy must be earned, not allowed? And when you find the answer, don't hate them, understand them, and then release them. Because freedom doesn't come through rage. It comes through recognition. You're not here to destroy people. You're here to dismantle the programming. You're here to clear the voices, not carry them. You're here to stop being a storage unit for other people's projections. You're here to remember that every time you choose yourself, you heal generations of silence before you. And you will be tested, because the voice doesn't want to leave quietly. It's comfortable in your head. It's lived there, rent-free for years. It's convinced you it's protecting you from failure, from judgment, from rejection. But in truth, it's been protecting itself from your awakening. Because the moment you see the lie, really see it, it starts to unravel. You'll realize that what you thought was self-doubt was really inherited doubt. What you labeled as insecurity was someone else's fear, handed to you as truth. What felt like procrastination was your soul rebelling against false expectations. What seemed like laziness was actually burnout from suppressing your essence. And once that realization hits, you'll feel it. A fire, a tremble, a sacred defiance rising in you. Not to prove anything, not to fight for approval, but to say, I'm done. Done pretending, done shrinking, done rehearsing, done living someone else's dream while my own gathers dust. You'll notice you start deleting numbers you don't align with. You'll stop explaining your evolution to people committed to misunderstanding you. You'll no longer feel guilty for resting, for laughing too loud, for saying no. You'll start protecting your energy like it's sacred. Because it is. And that's when the implanted voice will panic. It'll get louder at first, desperate. It'll sound like, who do you think you are? You've changed. You're overreacting. It'll try to make you doubt your growth. But don't flinch, because when resistance increases, it means the system is losing control. You are not going crazy. You are becoming clear. You are not falling apart. You are falling into place. The closer you get to your real voice, the more everything that doesn't match it will start to burn away. Friendships, beliefs, habits, labels, even parts of your identity you thought were permanent will begin to melt. Let them. Because everything false must fall. This is not a breakdown. It's a breakthrough. This is not a loss. It's a liberation. This is not the end. It's the beginning of you. The real you. The one beneath the voices. The one before the programming. The one that never needed to be fixed, just found. And now that you're finding them, you are dangerous to everything that tried to suppress you. Because once you know your true voice, you don't follow trends, you set them. You don't chase worth, you embody it. You don't beg for space, you create it. You don't play roles, you live truth. This is the revolution you were born for. It doesn't start with a scream. It starts with a whisper, a single sentence. That's not my voice. And from there, the unlearning begins. The remembering begins. The real living begins. So stay with it. Stay with the discomfort. Stay with the awkward pauses. Stay with the deep questions that have no fast answers. Because in that space, between who they said you should be and who you truly are, that's where freedom lives. And freedom is calling. There's a moment in every awakening where the grief sets in. Not because you've done something wrong, but because you finally see it clearly. You see how long you've been carrying a voice that was never yours, how often you betrayed your intuition just to feel safe, how many times you dimmed your light, not because it was wrong, but because it made others uncomfortable. You realize how much time was lost, not to laziness, not to lack, but to programming, to a system that needed you to doubt yourself in order to function. And that grief is sacred. It means you're finally honoring your real self. It means you've stopped numbing, stopped blaming, stopped running, and started remembering. And when you remember, everything false becomes unbearable. You can't tolerate fake smiles anymore. You can't sit through conversations where your soul is invisible. You can't pretend that fine is enough, because it's not. It never was. You weren't meant to survive the echo of other people's opinions. You were meant to sing your own frequency. And anything less than that will now feel like suffocation. That's why the process is so intense. You're not just letting go of thoughts. You're letting go of an entire identity built around the implanted voice. An identity that says, be quiet. Don't take up space. Be useful, not honest. Be good, not free. Be perfect, even if it kills you. But chosen one, none of that was you. It was a costume stitched from fear, a persona manufactured for survival, a version of you that learned how to keep others comfortable, even if it meant sacrificing your peace. But that version is crumbling now, and with it, the voice begins to lose its grip. Because the moment you choose truth over image, the moment you value alignment over approval, the moment you start listening to your body more than the noise in your mind, the system collapses. The implanted voice can't survive in an environment of honesty. It needs shame. It needs secrecy. It needs you to believe that your true self is too much, too loud, too strange, too intense. But when you start living in full presence, when you stop apologizing for your sensitivity, your emotions, your voice, you become untouchable. You become you, not a curated you, not a digestible you, but the real you, raw, radiant, unshakable. That's the you the world was waiting for. That's the you your ancestors dreamed into existence. That's the you the universe whispers to in your quietest moments. But understand, the more real you become, the more resistance you may face. The old voice will return at times, not because you're failing, but because you're cleansing. It will test you. It will say, you're making people uncomfortable. You're being selfish. You've changed. And your answer must be, yes, I've changed. I've come home to myself, and I'm not leaving again. Because this time, the door doesn't swing both ways. This time, once you cross the threshold into your truth, there is no retreat. You've seen too much. You've felt too much. You've awakened parts of your soul that won't go back to sleep. And that's not a burden. That's a gift. You now carry a frequency that others can feel. You speak with a clarity that pierces illusions. You walk with a sovereignty that can't be manufactured. And no voice, implanted, inherited, or imposed, can overwrite that. You've remembered your own authority, and that changes everything. It changes how you speak to yourself when you wake up in the morning. It changes what you tolerate in relationships. It changes what you believe you deserve. It changes how you respond to chaos, not with panic, but with presence. Because your inner voice is no longer a courtroom. It's a sanctuary. It's no longer a drill sergeant. It's a guardian. It no longer asks, am I enough? It declares, I am. That is the power of deprogramming. You begin to rewrite the script. Where once there was doubt, there is direction. Where once there was noise, there is knowing. Where once there was fear, there is fierce compassion. And from that place, that holy ground of clarity, your choices begin to change, not for attention, not for applause, but because alignment has become your only compass. You no longer walk into rooms asking, "Do they like me?" You walk in asking, "Does this room honor who I am becoming?" You no longer chase what's trending. You move with what is true. You no longer compromise to keep a connection. You choose self-respect over temporary belonging. And in doing so, you begin to hear something new in your mind. A voice that doesn't scold, but soothes. That doesn't shame, but strengthens. That doesn't rush, but reminds. You're safe now. You're allowed. You are the voice you've been waiting for, because you are. You always have been. And now, finally, you're listening. There comes a moment, chosen one, where you stop asking for permission, not out of rebellion, but out of remembrance. You remember who you were before the world told you who to be. You remember the rhythm of your own breath, the beat of your own heart, the voice that always whispered beneath the noise. Soft, but steady. Hidden, but never gone. That voice, your real voice, was never erased, just overwritten. They placed another voice on top of it, layered it with fear, trimmed it with control, and called it good behavior. But it was never goodness, it was quiet compliance. And now you know the difference. You're not angry anymore, you're awake. And that changes everything. Because when you finally hear your voice again, not the performance, not the programming, but yours, it doesn't scream. It doesn't beg. It speaks, and the universe listens. You don't have to prove your truth. You just have to live it. No announcements, no explanations, just alignment. You've walked through the shadows, felt the weight of the old voice, and now you stand in a new light. One you didn't borrow, one you didn't steal, one that was always yours. This is sovereignty, not the illusion of control, but the embodiment of clarity. Not shouting to be heard, but speaking from grounded presence. Not chasing freedom, but realizing you are the freedom. And now, chosen one, you move differently. You don't fill silence with noise. You feel it. You don't rush to answer. You listen. You don't over-explain. You exist, and that's enough. Because you've seen how much energy it costs to wear a voice that was never yours. You've felt the ache of shrinking for other people's comfort, and you've made a sacred vow. Never again. Never again will you trade truth for approval. Never again will you sacrifice your intuition to stay safe. Never again will you silence your soul to be liked, picked, or praised. You know now, anything that demands you abandon your voice is not love, it's manipulation. Anything that punishes your clarity is not wisdom, it's control. Anything that shames your emotion is not strength, it's repression. And you're done with all of it. This part of the journey isn't about breaking free. It's about staying free. It's about choosing your voice daily, even when it shakes. It's about trusting the whisper over the shout. It's about speaking to yourself the way you wish they had, with gentleness, with encouragement, with grace. You are no longer a prisoner of the program. You are the programmer now. And you get to write your story with a new language, a language that says, I matter. That says, my truth is not too much. That says, I don't have to earn rest. That says, being real is better than being perfect. And because of that, your world begins to shift. The people who only loved the mask, they may fade. The paths that demanded your silence, they will close. But in their place, new alignments appear. Real ones, whole ones, ones that don't ask you to shrink to fit. Because when you speak your truth, your tribe can hear you. They couldn't find you before. You were buried under someone else's voice. But now that you're singing your soul's note again, the universe is tuning everything to your frequency, and it's only just beginning. You're going to wake up one morning and realize the shame is gone, the weight is gone, the doubt is quiet, the voice is yours. And in that stillness, you'll smile. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer pretending. You'll breathe deeper, you'll walk lighter, you'll laugh louder, because you're finally living from the inside out. And chosen one, that changes everything. This is not the end of the road. It's the beginning of you. You're not who they said you were. You never were. You are not a mistake. You are not a malfunction. You are a message, written by the divine, spoken through human form. And now, finally, that message is being heard. So speak. Not because they asked you to, but because you're ready. Speak with love. Speak with fire. Speak with peace. Speak with power. And if that voice, the old implanted one, ever tries to return, just smile and say, "You had your time, but I'm home now." You've broken through the illusion. You've silenced the echo. You've remembered the sound of your soul. But now, chosen one, comes the test the old voice never warned you about. Can you protect what you've reclaimed? Because when you start living as your true self, not just in private, but in every room, every choice, every breath, you become a mirror. And not everyone is ready to see themselves reflected in that clarity. Your light will be misunderstood. Your confidence will be called arrogance. Your peace will be mistaken for detachment. Your boundaries will be labeled selfish. And if you're not grounded, if you're still looking for validation from the same system you escaped, you'll be tempted to go back, to shrink, to soften the edges of your truth just to be palatable again. But hear this clearly. The moment you dull your truth to be accepted, you reinvite the voice you spent your life trying to delete. You didn't come this far to blend back in. This isn't about being liked. This is about being whole. This isn't about being safe. This is about being sovereign. This isn't about being heard by everyone. This is about finally hearing yourself and not doubting what you hear. You are now the guardian of your voice. You will have to protect it like a sacred flame, because that's what it is. It's not just sound. It's not just thought. Your voice is the intersection of your spirit and this world. What you speak, how you speak, where you speak from, these are spells, sacred vibrations, echoes of creation itself. So speak from truth, always. Not to please, not to impress, but to anchor your reality. Because if you don't anchor your reality, someone else will. Someone with an agenda, someone with fear to project, someone with a script already written, looking for actors. But you're not an actor anymore. You've stepped off the stage. You've stopped performing. And yes, that will confuse people. They'll ask, "What happened to you?" And your answer can be simple: I stopped pretending. You're not becoming something new. You're unbecoming everything that was never real. You're not getting better at the game. You've simply stopped playing it. And now, every step you take is an act of rebellion, not with fire, but with authenticity. And here's the paradox. The more real you become, the less you need to say. The more aligned you are, the fewer battles you enter. The clearer your truth, the quieter your environment becomes. Because clarity repels chaos. Peace silences noise, and self-respect redraws every boundary. You will outgrow entire realities with a single decision. I will not betray myself today. And that's the daily work now. Not just healing, but holding. Not just knowing your worth, but living like it. Not just reclaiming your voice, but respecting it enough to never lend it to lies again. You don't just speak truth when it's easy. You speak it when your hands shake, when your throat closes, when silence would be more convenient. Because your voice is sacred and your soul is listening. This is how you rewire your life, not in a single breakthrough, but in 1,000 quiet choices. Each time you speak honestly when it would have been easier to hide. Each time you rest without guilt. Each time you say yes only when your body agrees. Each time you say no without a paragraph of justification. These are the rituals now, not ceremonies of fire, but ceremonies of alignment. Not loud revolutions, but soft, consistent acts of sovereignty. Not trying to be understood, but becoming so clear that understanding becomes irrelevant. Because the people meant for you will not need your explanation. They will feel your frequency. The ones who truly see you will not ask you to dim. They will hand you more light, and the life meant for you will not demand your silence. It will require your voice. And so, the next phase of your awakening is not about finding your voice. It's about making it your home. You will build your relationships from it. You will make decisions from it. You will create boundaries with it. You will dream with it, speak with it, live with it. And every time the old voice tries to return, because it will, you won't panic, you won't question, you won't retreat. You'll smile and say, I hear you, but I choose me. And in that simple sentence, you rewrite everything. Because this isn't just healing anymore, this is legacy. You are healing so the next generation doesn't inherit